Hello and welcome to another edition of Grandstanders Live. I'm your host, Scott Kerman, and I'm joined by my usual cohorts, the Professor Russ Stevens, Uncle Joe McLaughlin, and he's JP's first son, Tim Hoey. Well, we have another great show for you tonight. So, boys, let's get it started. We start with the Red Sox, and it was just a month ago, boys. I said after the Red Sox took 3 out of 4 in Fenway Park against the Yankees, and of course the Yankees had the COVID. They had guys like Judge out. I said the Yankees are dead. Well, it's August 18th, and the Boston Red Sox and New York Yankees are tied up for the wild card right now. What went wrong?
Well, in retrospect, they probably were never as good as their record said they were, right? That's pretty clear at this point. They probably won a lot of close games. They came back a lot late and kind of fooled us into thinking that they were a significantly better team than it seems like they are.
I think this is more realistic reflection of the talent on the team and what they really are, just like Russell said.
Look, clutch hitting has failed them, Joe, and the bullpen has been terrible.
And the starters have deteriorated. That was the strength through the first half was the starters.
Well, the starters the last 10 games, Joe, have done very well.
And Hulk and Sale have been fine.
Yeah, they've solidified the starting rotation, but the bullpen has been horrific, and that should have been fixed by Heim before the deadline, and he got 2 nothings.
Well, I think the bullpen is paying the price for the fact that the starters were not going into the 7th inning for the better part of the first 80, 90 games. And now the bullpen is worn out, and they should have brought in, by the way, one of those 2 guys has pitched well. Austin Davis has pitched pretty well, I think, but they just needed more. They needed a lot more.
And the additions of Hope and Sale, they only go 4, maybe 5 innings.
Right.
And, they won't let Hope go through anyone the 3rd time through.
Yeah.
Well, the plan was that
the same way.
They didn't think that both Richards and Perez would shit the bed like this. They thought one would, but they thought the other wouldn't, and they used Houck in that kind of Whitlock role where they do 2 or 3 innings, kind of a bridge to Ottavino and Barnes. But that's not the case. And like you said, Joe, Houck is he's a 4 to 5 inning guy right now.
Well, they're babying him, and they must have their reasons. Their analysts say he doesn't have enough pitches to go through a 3rd time through the lineup. That the hitters will have him down pat for that 3rd time through.
Look, Chris Sale comes back on Saturday. Of course, it was against the Orioles, so you really can't put much credence into that. But his presence there seemed to be a boost for the team, and then they come back Tuesday in a doubleheader, and they just lay an egg.
Yeah, it's too bad that first game seemed to be in hand, and the one guy in the bullpen that we could count on, your boy, Whitlock, picked a bad time to get nervous on the big stage because it just looked like he got nervous and didn't want to throw the ball over the plate, and it cost him a game.
You didn't feel like that was an early exit by Cora? I mean, he is a guy, he's got a sinker, he can get a double play ball. He only faced 3 batters and he's out of there?
Yeah, it could have been. That's a debatable decision.
Yeah, in hindsight, of course. It didn't work out, though. I like Josh Taylor, and he's been clutch for the last couple of seasons. But, he had just came off COVID, and he was just terrible. Schwarber, he could have helped out 3 weeks ago. He comes back now in a part-time role. It just shows you that Heim acquiring Schwarber instead of Rizzo was a mistake.
Oh, damaged goods at bargain basement price. That's what he was looking for. That's what he got. That's why we didn't even get him as a rental for the 2nd half of the year. We got him a rental for the last quarter of the year.
Oh, Timmy, we can't hear you. Put your sound up, Timmy. JD Martinez, he's been horrific the last month or so. This is a guy who gets paid a hell of a lot of money to hit. This is part of the whole fall of the Red Sox right now is JD Martinez not able to sustain this.
Look, we had a situation here where there was kind of a perfect storm where a bunch of hitters got cold at the same time. The starting pitchers had a bad stretch. Now the relievers are having bad stretches, and they're doing just enough to lose every night. And look, I don't think this is over yet. Like, I think they could put together 20 decent games, 25 decent games with a good record and be right in the middle of the wild card race.
Well, the top of the wild card. Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and the Athletics really don't scare me. Do the Athletics have the depth to go the whole 162 and keep up? I don't know. The Yankees, I do think they have the depth. They've shown it. They, with COVID, half the team out, they swept the doubleheader from the Red Sox.
Yeah.
Timmy, is it always a situation where the team always looks dead when they're losing?
I think that happens to most teams, but then that's where the leadership comes in. You know, you're looking for your veterans to pick them up. This is where Xander Bogaerts and JD Martinez and maybe Chris Sale, that he's back there now, need to get in some of these guys' heads and, you know, say, hey, we're on a dogfight here. What are we going to do?
Yeah, guys, I like Alex Verdugo, Russ. I like him a lot. But
I like him.
He's going to put up real numbers, you know, as an outfielder. I mean, because he's putting up second base numbers. You know, I know he's a hustler and everything, but you need more than 11 or 12 home runs from your left fielder.
Yeah. You need more. You're going to need a good stretch from him. You know, Kike has been so good, but that at bat yesterday, you know, was bad. You know, he's up 3-1. He swings at ball 4.
3-0.
Was it 3-0? And so that walks in a run, and now all of a sudden you're a sack fly away from tying a game that you've blown, right? That, you know, yesterday just shows you all you need to know about where this team is. They're this far from, you know, tanking or, you know, there's a very thin line. They could have won both those games yesterday.
But attention to detail, they've been very sloppy in the last month, throwing to the wrong base, some errors. And yesterday, there's not one hitter. I don't even care if his name is Mike Trout. No one needs to be hitting 3-0 with the bases loaded. You'll get a cookie at 3-1. Let's see how this works out. Clearly, the guy just threw 3 straight balls.
He was wild.
Terrible.
That's got to be Timmy. That's got to be on Cora.
That someone,
you know, Little league players don't do that. I mean, there isn't a
way there.
You know, who does that? Babe Ruth does that, maybe. Barry Bonds in his peak, you know what I mean? Other than that, maybe Big Papi when he was on his tear, and maybe Manny Ramirez. But unless you're in that category, you do not swing at 3-0.
Totally agree.
Look, and then the fact is that if we're trying to compete for a World Series this year, I like Jarren Duran. I don't like Dahlbeck. But I don't want to try out still in August. And that's when you're playing those two guys, it feels like a tryout.
I mean, why is Dahlbeck still in the lineup? That's what I'd like to know. I mean, this guy is horrendous.
He's been hot there he's been hot.
Yeah, he's been
in the last couple of weeks. He's been the best hitter. But I think it's like a Jackie Bradley type streak, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm not buying.
I don't see him being a consistent hitter ever.
Everybody got hot. He put up huge numbers against the Orioles
against bad pitching. You're right, Scott.
9 RBI. So that kind of distorted.
Yeah.
All you have to do is watch the games, and you all watch the games to see that any real pitcher strikes him out every time.
Yeah.
Well, they brought Travis Shaw in for a couple of weeks to be a bit of a platoon until, you know, so they can see if Schwarber can play first. I'm not convinced he can, but not a horrible move. I mean, I have no problem with it because you're not at least putting all your chips in Bobby Dahlbeck, who has not proven himself.
I mean, Shaw's been terrible this year so far. I mean, he's shown that he's capable of being a better player than that. I mean, hopefully we get the old Shaw and not the most recent Shaw.
I thought he was out of baseball, to tell you the truth.
I don't know anyone's waxing poetic to me about the old Travis Shaw. So
But I mean,
That's what we
well,
heard of.
they're certainly not waxing poetic about the most recent Travis
Oh,
show.
well, he's terrible. He's just not Frenchy Cordero. That's
How
all.
about that long swing like Jackie Bradley had? That is a guaranteed strikeout on the high fastball.
Yeah, I mean, do these moves convince you that Hine is just saying, this isn't the year?
No, he's not all in, Rusty, is he?
No, we talked about this last week.
Yeah.
We talked about this last week. They stayed below the luxury tax threshold. If you want to know what really happened at the trade deadline, they made the decision collectively, or he was told, we're not going over the luxury tax. So guess what? We have two no-name relievers and Schwarber, who's on a low contract, and his contract is up this year.
Yeah, I think Nationals gave Red Sox some money, I think, actually. All right, to finish up.
Someone might have wanted Richardson. He could have got rid of $10 million there and added something,
Well, Joe, I know you said that last week. Joe, I gotta believe if he could have got rid of Richards, he would have done that. I can't believe that he was keeping him. Well, look, to feel good about this situation and to explain why Heim is doing what he's doing, it came out this week. Red Sox are rated 9th best organizational, the minor league system, and that's up from, I believe at one point it was
Dead
30.
last. Yeah.
They were 20 to start the year, but a lot of that could have been the draft pick Maya. He jumped you 4 or 5 places right there.
I got a question for you guys. August 18th, do the Red Sox make the playoffs or not? Scotty.
Question. Timmy.
Scotty.
I think that they do not. No, I think
Scotty, I'm with you. I think they're trending in the wrong direction. I think that, we always say this, you are what your baseball card is. If you take that collection of players and pitchers and relievers, and it's not a playoff team.
Uncle Joe.
I think they recovered their mojo just enough that they can beat out for the one game wild card and lose the one game to the Yankees. I think they can beat out the Athletics, especially when the Athletics just lost another pitcher.
So just like Joe McLaughlin on the Joe McLaughlin report, Scotty and Timmy, you are wrong.
Oh,
the Red Sox
wow.
will make their playoffs this
Oh,
year.
wow. All of a sudden.
Whoa.
He said they were going to win the most games. I'm telling you.
Wrong.
You flipped,
Okay.
Scotty. Scotty, you flipped. You gave up. I'm
No, I
surprised.
didn't. No, I flipped because I told you the key
95 wins, wasn't it?
I told you the key guys were Xander, Devers, Martinez, Verdugo, and Vasquez, and I think 2 of those 5 guys are not coming through.
Look,
like they
all
should.
I know is, Scotty, you picked them to win 105 games this year, and it's not happening.
105 games, yeah.
And what's with the end of the wallflower Bogart's there? He's just
I think Scotty's number. What was Scotty's number? His realistic
90.
number was 90. What are they at now?
I don't know. I'm not 90.
69.
Is that right?
They're trending in the wrong
I
direction.
bet they're on pace for 90 wins. They're going to be
They're
close.
close to it. They are actually
Yeah.
so close to it. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but that's because they did great at the beginning of the season. They're not doing great anymore.
Look, they just
I
did
think they're going to do well. I think they're making the playoffs. Joe, you and me, brother, all the way.
I just don't. I know that somehow the Athletics make it every year and lose in the first round, but for some reason I think they don't have the depth this year, and their pitching staff is starting to wilt, and that's their strength.
Well, just
Right there.
look, it's been a theme for at least 6 months where you guys have had to eat crow and say, Scotty, you're right. Scotty, you're right. So this is just continue a pattern right now. So just October 3rd, whatever that time of that show is, you guys can just start going like that toward me. All right, we're going to the Patriots. Look,
Belichick is the manager right now of the Red Sox. Jimmy G is the starting quarterback of the Patriots. You're right, Scotty. You're right.
thank you. It's all that is possible.
All coming. It's a master plan.
It's all possible. This is all happening, Joseph. All right, Matt Jones, just give him the goddamn team and let's have Cam Newton play 5 to 7 plays in the red zone and 3rd down, and let's call it a day.
Well, who knows what's going to happen
That's
with
what's going to
this?
happen, boys. That's what's going to happen. Mac Jones is a starting quarterback. All my sources in Gillette Stadium say
He
he's
never,
clearly the
he
better
never
quarterback.
tips his hand. He never tips his hand. He would keep a secret from his wife forever.
You know,
Some of those guys.
how could it can't be worse than it was last year. That's what, how could it possibly be? Could the quarterback position be worse this year than it was last year?
Well, it will be if you have Cam Newton as quarterback. He's showing nothing different than last year. It's not like all of a sudden there's this new guy walking in the room. Mac Jones is a steady hand. He's going to be the Tom Brady of the first 5 years of his career.
I mean, the quarterback changes mechanics. I mean, it's all about mechanics for him, and he doesn't have NFL mechanics. Cam, you know, I mean, he can't be an NFL quarterback.
He
Yeah,
doesn't
Russ,
have
why
his athleticism anymore that he used to have, that he had all his life. And now he has to do things the right way. And he can't.
He's not
Russ,
an
why
NFL
would you
quarterback.
risk it? But why would you risk losing opening day, Dolphins, AFC East divisional game? Why would you say we have to go to, like you said, which I agree, to the record of 2-3 before you make the move? Just have him as the starting quarterback. You could always put Cam in.
I think he's just gonna I think he's gonna start Cam. I think he's gonna start Cam for 4 or 5 games unless he gets injured, and he could easily get injured in the opening series against the Dolphins. And he's gonna, use those 4 to 5 games to see what they have. They're gonna run the ball a lot. They're gonna just establish themselves after training camp where there's just not a lot of time to get ready. And I just don't think he's going to start a rookie quarterback on day one in a weird training camp where they don't even hit each other more than 7 times, for God's sakes.
And
You know,
if
the
that
only
doesn't
thing I'll
work
say-
out, the team he'll lose the locker room. If he starts Mac, and he doesn't work out right away, he's going to lose the locker room. You appease the veterans, let Mac win the locker room over, then you start him.
You know, this
You
kid.
gotta wait until the players are behind him.
This isn't some kid from North Dakota State. You know, he's been playing at Alabama, which is as close to the NFL, which is bigger than a lot of NFL teams.
Yeah, but if you start listening to the fans, you end up sitting with the fans. Everyone
No,
knows
what I mean is the pressure of the games and the stage that he's been playing on. You come out of Alabama, you're as NFL ready. I mean, from that perspective, as you can be.
Well, name another quarterback. There's a lot of quarterbacks that come out of Alabama since Joe Namath, and I don't see any of them doing real well.
I know, but this guy's different.
None of them.
He's not responsible for all the quarterbacks in the history of Alabama.
They all were winning championships.
Yeah.
They were all winning in the Calder. He's got to win over the locker room. No one cares about the fans in that locker room. Not the coaches, not the players. When they're behind Mac, that's when the switch will be made.
But if you have a quarterback, Joe, that literally cannot throw the ball, and then you have a
the
guy.
locker room will change and get behind Mac. Tim, he's got to wait this out. You can't do things just because the fans want it.
All right, then I'm going to ask you.
Bob Kraft tells him to. Bob Kraft's the owner. You'll have to do it.
All right, I'm going to ask you a question, boys. Has the decision already been made, or you think this is still a competition, Russ?
Yeah, it's still a competition for sure.
Oh, yeah.
They got another game, and then they got another set of joint practices next week. I think the next 10 days, in about 10 to 14 days, we'll know. I don't think he's made a final decision. I don't. I think it's Cam's job to lose, but I don't think he's made a final decision.
Timmy, is this a competition still?
Yeah, I think they're still, trying to see exactly what Mac Jones has. I mean, he put on a nice little show in his first debut. I thought he was very efficient. Cam Newton was Cam Newton. It makes me physically ill to think of Cam Newton stepping back into the pocket for the Patriots. I mean,
wait, is this the same Cam Newton that Scotty wanted to sign after the first 3 games last year? Or is there another Cam Newton in the NFL? Because Scotty's always right.
That's another one. That's another one.
Long-term contract.
This guy.
Big news.
Hey, it starts with the receivers.
You meant,
Scott,
I
I
love
love
Big
Big
Newtons.
Newtons,
Wait,
and I
wait.
want to eat them for the next 5 years, and I'm willing to spend millions on it.
Wait, Adrian's getting the first aid kit right now to stop the bleeding over there on.
Oh, bring it on, Russ. You can bring it on. I can take anything you got.
He's
I-
bleeding.
That
He's
looks
bleeding
like
profusely.
Joe, is the competition still on? Because I would ask this question, Joe.
Yes.
Cam Newton is not capable of putting up 30 points in any NFL game. There's not a
I agree with you. I don't want to see it, but this is professional football, and he's going to have to wait. The receivers seem to be liking Mac a little better than Cam, at least from what they, listen, reading between the lines. Once he wins over the rest of that locker room, then he can play.
I always thought LeGarrette Blount was a very unique running back because he's this big, tough guy, who would get the 3 or 4 yards. But then he'd break out and get these runs, 30, 40, 50 yards, and it was pretty remarkable. This kid Stevenson has that type of game. He looks actually, he's a little smaller, I think, but he looks like that type of back. That sounds like a hell of a pick
I saw something today. I saw a tweet today where they ranked the highest speed in opening weekend, and Justin Fields was like second, and Stevenson was fourth. Hit 20.4 miles an hour at 235 pounds. And by the way, he didn't catch the ball.
Yeah.
He ran away from those defenders on that run.
Yeah.
That was pretty impressive. It looked like they had the angle on him, and he ran away from them.
Hey, Joe, remind me what round pick he was? Was he a 4th round pick or?
I think a 3rd.
Right. So it just makes the fact
the 4th. Him and Ronnie Perkins were both from Oklahoma.
So can you imagine Belichick picked Sony Michel in the 1st round when he picked Damian Harris and Stevenson in the 3rd and the 4th round?
Yeah, he could have taken Nick Chubb, as Joe reminds us every time.
That's a sore spot.
I'm sorry, Joe. Yeah.
One of the best offensive players in the NFL.
How can he pick a guy like Stevenson in the 3rd round and pick, like you said, Harris, and not be able to pick any wide receiver the last 20 years?
That fool, he hasn't tracked anyone from Georgia since. He was that coach burned him.
That's certainly his Achilles heel position with picks. If I were him, I would subcontract that pick out every year.
Yeah, he's got to stop believing these college coaches. They're just selling them because it sells their program if they have number 1 picks.
Look, we have spoken very little about the highest paid free agent of the Patriots group. And Judon comes in on an exhibition game, the first game, looks fantastic, looks exactly like the type of guy we want. All there is praise about him. How can you be the highest paid free agent in the history of the Patriots and be a sleeper? I'm telling you, he's a sleeper.
You only played like a half dozen plays. They've seen enough. They said, take the rest of the night off.
Got hurt in one, Joe.
They signed so many guys. He'd get a lot more ink right now if we weren't in the middle of a full-blown quarterback controversy, right? All anyone wants to talk about right now is Cam versus Mac and Mac versus Cam, and it's taken up 80% of the bandwidth.
And by the way, there's another one. Wino there, Winovich. Belichick has had nothing but bad stuff to say about him lately.
I told you he's going. That was my pick for the guy who's leaving. He's leaving. He would definitely have left.
They asked about him coming back to give me. He hasn't done anything yet. That's for sure.
The kid who they liked, McMillan or something, that went on the IR.
Oh yeah, he's
definitely the reason why Winovich was going to be exiting this. I still think, again, I still would not be surprised if Hightower retires.
I hope not. Yeah, but you could be right.
There's no evidence whatsoever that. You could be right, but I haven't seen any evidence that.
Doesn't it seem like every year right around this time we get a shocking surprise retirement though?
Exactly. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, but it's usually aged veteran wide receivers he brings in for last grasp at glory retire.
I hope I can articulate this. I read this where apparently there was this huge wide receiver crop a couple of years ago of, when they were drafting a bunch of wide receivers, the whole NFL. And apparently there's going to be a glut of wide receivers, some good ones being cut the next couple of weeks. They said, and it said that because because of the market, the way the market was, and that may be a pool for which the Patriots can grab from.
Well, let's hope so.
Yeah, so
that would be nice. I mean, we have been so depleted in that position for a while.
Have you seen? I mean, they've got subpar starters to begin with. Other than I Jacoby Myers.
You think back, even if Tom Brady had stayed last year, he would have just been the most frustrated man on the planet because there was nobody to throw to, no tight ends to throw to, no wide receivers to throw to, no running back. There was nobody to throw to. He would have been the most frustrating year of his life, I think.
All right, boys, before we leave the Patriots, does Gilmore sign with the Patriots? Is he playing the Patriots this year?
Yeah, for the last preseason game.
Yeah.
So
I think they're just going to wait when he's healthy, gets a practice or two in, they get to see how he looks, and they sign him to the contract.
Yeah, I think they're too invested in this team right now to walk away from a player of his caliber.
Well, we're going to the
Celtics. The Celtics haven't looked all that good either.
We're going to the Celtics, and you know what JP's first son, Tim Hoey, the pull he has in the Boston sports world. It's evident, it's clear, and his little binky, Marcus Smart, God forbid Marcus Smart doesn't stay with the Celtics until he's 87 years old, signs a 4-year extension because there was such an immediate need to give Marcus Smart $77 million. So, Timmy, explain yourself.
All right, there's two ways to look at this. Okay, Marcus Smart does bring something to the table, Scott. He brings, I know he slacked off a little bit on defense, but he does bring I hate to lose. Everyone get out here and work their butt off mentality. The guys, when we went to the Eastern Conference Finals 2 years ago, I mean, the players on the other team were raving about Marcus Smart, saying, listen, the Celtics do not get there without that guy on the team. Do I hear 35,000 other people groaning no every time he heaves a three-pointer up? Yes, I do. If this new coach can somehow get into Marcus Smart's head that he is not the guy that we're depending on to score a three-pointer, he brings a lot to the table. The only thing that detracts from him is his shot choice. So if we can get that under control, I will happily have Marcus Smart on this team for the next 4 years. Now, on the other side of that, I think that this increases his trade value because they know. I think his contract is right about where it should be for a guy of his abilities, and if they're looking to move him, I think he's a more marketable player now with the 4-year contract at that price in place.
Russ, he's a coach killer.
I could not agree any more with what Tim Hoey just said. Period. Full stop. I'm 100% with Timmy, and I would only add that we should give the guy a chance to play in a new system for a new coach in a new role. He has shown he can run the pick and roll better than any guard we've had in the last 6 years, and that includes Kyrie and Isaiah Thomas and Kemba Walker. So let's give the guy a shot, and if it doesn't work out by the trade deadline, to Timmy's point, it's a movable contract.
Don't you think he's kind of like a fish out of water in this point guard role, though?
No, I think he played point guard at Oklahoma State, and he's been a fish out of water and coming in when guys are hurt. Yeah.
Oh my God. He's seriously. Is he in the room? Is he somehow in all of your rooms?
Nope.
I mean, are you guys speaking?
Junior season now.
Why do you hate a guy?
I don't understand why. Yeah, exactly.
Why do you hate a guy that goes out and works his tail off for this team and wants to be in Boston, likes Boston? He's not one of these freaking crybaby superstars who's out there, asking for,
hey, Timmy,
take the croutons out of my salad.
You want to know what he is, Timmy? Timmy, he's a Bruin.
He's a Bruin. He's Terry O'Reilly. He's Terry O'Reilly in a Celtics shirt on.
Bruin.
Scotty, I'm so sick of these freaking pampered superstars of this
now
league.
you got it going, Trust. Nice job. Look at that.
Friggin' Bruin. Name me another Celtics player who's closer to being a Bruin than.
I don't need a Bruin. I need a Celtic. What do I need a Bruin for?
The Celtic player is so stupid. He doesn't know the score. And he steps back for a three-pointer.
Hey,
I'll take a
Bruin. I'll take a Bruin on the Celtics any day of the week. Well, how about
oh
you?
Thank you, Russell. Thank you.
And they'll win one title in 50.
Do you want
another in the hotel room and he's on for 2 months?
Oh,
do you want another pampered superstar in here threatening to take his binky and go to another town? I'll take this guy.
That's like a spot who punches a mirror in the hotel room.
Marcus Smart get better.
If you haven't punched him, if
get better from the end of the season, which is a complete disaster, which he was a huge contributor to till now. How did he get so good?
I like him, Scotty. Hey, I'll take a guy who punches the mirror. I'll take a guy who punches the mirror after a loss against a guy who doesn't care and just goes out to the nightclub and has a party.
He's made 2 All-NBA defensive teams. He works his ass off every single night. Every night. I don't understand why you don't like him, Scotty. He works his ass off. He loves Boston.
He tries to take all the shots.
By the way, you know who the third guy on this? There's 3 guys on this team who've shown that they can play well in the playoffs. 3 are 2 superstars and the guy we just signed. No one else has shown that they can play well in the playoffs. That's what this whole thing is about.
Okay, I would like Marcus Smart if he was a role player, like a Don Chaney, where he came in, changed the energy, played a great defense, shot only when it was a layup. But this guy puts up 10 to 12 shots at times.
And Brad told him to. Brad told us over and over again, he told Smart to take every open three-pointer that there was.
I'll defend him on those games he's shooting 20, 25. A lot of those times, Tatum and Brown are just kind of wandering around. Someone's got to take the shot.
Yeah, I agree.
If everyone else is disinterested, he had to take the shot. When he's shooting, they're losing.
Scotty, I want you to promise me. I want you to promise me something, Scotty. You're going to go into this with an open mind. Can you promise me that?
All right, fine. I'm going into an open mind because we have a new coach.
Yes. Right.
There was many a time where it seemed like he was the only one with the guts to take a shot, and that's unfortunate.
Yep. Look, he doesn't have
that's my point, Tim.
He does not have an 80-year lifetime contract like Brad Stevens would.
No.
So, he'll still have to get a job if he gets fired from the Boston Celtics. Brad Stevens does not. So, needless to say, if Marcus Smart screws up, I think he does get into Marcus's face, and that's going to be very interesting because Marcus does not like that.
It is. It is.
Can any of us pronounce his name correctly? I say Coach U. I can't pronounce it.
Udoka. Ime Udoka. It's not hard. Ime Udoka.
Joe, if I can pronounce it.
Oh my God! If Scotty could pronounce it, my goodness.
It was like 12 points. You go back 12 steps if you can.
I just know they never say his name anywhere.
Because they're just looking for me to say it.
So how do we? Russell, can you pronounce the name for me, please?
Ime Udoka.
Ime Udoka. Okay, that's not bad.
Udoka.
If you guys can't pronounce it, just call him Coach U. But I'll just.
That's what I call him. Yeah, Coach U.
That's right, and I'll just say Coach Udoka because that's what we do here when you're the moderator. You pronounce every word right. I told you that. Right?
Just call him Coach
Brad's grade. Brad has he's got enough. He's been in. He's had enough tests to have a grade. What grade do you give him, Russ?
I would give him sort of B plus A minus 90. Like the fact that he moved a contract in Kemba that seemed unmovable, got a little bit back. That Tristan Thompson trade, I figured we were going to have to pay somebody to take him. We ended up getting 2 decent players in a second round pick. And then he comes up with a trade exception with the Knicks that the Knicks didn't have to do a trade exception. They had room to take Kemba in. So it's like, Brad did 3 pretty good things.
Picked up Horton.
Horford. Yeah.
Horford along the way. I mean, not a bad player.
Yeah,
I thought Evan Fournier was just a wide open free agent, and he signed away, and next thing you know, they're getting something in return for him.
Right.
I thought he hornswoggled them.
Getting rid of that Kemba contract I didn't think it was humanly possible, really. And he did it as well.
He's going to get paid the full of that, plus another $9 million.
No. He took less.
He took less.
Oh, yeah?
It's going to be a break.
Yeah. And by the way, we got the Dallas paid us Moses Brown, who we then moved to take Jason Richardson, right? Into the trade exception.
That's the guy I like the most. That's exactly what I wanted coming into this offseason.
Right.
I wanted some veteran guys, and he's exactly that type. Guy who plays some good defense, seems to be good in the locker room, guy who might yell at a Marcus Smart every once in a while. That's the kind of moves we need.
For the Jays.
And I think that he still has one more move, one more veteran he's going to get Carson Edwards or Grant Williams' ass out the door.
I think that's right. Yeah.
One more veteran coming.
Oh, I would absolutely love it if he could figure out a way to take like Langford and Grant Williams, or Langford and somebody, and move them out and consolidate and get a player who's a real rotation player.
Yeah, I'm not excited to see Grant Williams out there much at all this year.
Well, take a look at the Memphis and who Memphis has now, because they have 17 players on guaranteed contracts, and you can only have 15. So they have to move 2 guys cheaply.
Yeah, look, Neesmith looks like he could be a potential quality player.
I like him.
Totally agree.
Langford, Williams, and of course Carson Edwards are trash. Yeah, I never need to see him in another Celtics uniform.
They're G League level guys.
That's our show for night one.
Wait, hold on, Scott. As soon as the show's over, I want you to get going on the Bulldog, okay?
I will, absolutely.
I'm on the edge of my seat. I'm glad
you love it. I'm glad you love it. I want to thank everyone behind the scenes. Corbin, want to thank, of course, the fellas. Please check us out on our website at thegrandstanders.com and tune in again next Wednesday night at 6:30 for another edition of Grandstanders Live. I'm your host, Scott Kerman. Have a great and happy night.